Welcome along to Betting Weekly Live. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me. As you can see, James Eastham, we are talking Europa League qualifiers over the course of the next 40 minutes or so. Plenty to get stuck into for sure. We're getting closer to seeing these teams qualify for the group stages. This round, then the playoff round, which is the official last round before we get to the group stages. So key games. We got thoughts on most, if not all, of the Europa League qualifiers, and we will touch very briefly on the conference qualifiers as well. James, how are you? The text conversation this morning was basically, this looks a tough card today. It's not straightforward for bettors.
No, hi Dan, great to be here. But you're right, it's not a straightforward card, this. As you say, we're not even at the end of the qualifying phase yet in these two competitions, because we do have the playoff round to come after the two legs. Teams playing this week, and then they're also playing next week. So let's see who gets through. There's lots of teams taking part in games today, which I think people watching and listening maybe won't know a lot about. It can throw up opportunities, obviously, in the market, because if we don't know about them, then it generally means the bookmakers don't know about them as well. So plenty to get into, but I think it is generally quite a tough card, this. And yes, that's partly down to the teams and the fact we sometimes don't know a lot about them, but it's also down to timing. I mean, we were talking before we came on air, Dan, about the fact that a lot of the teams playing in the matches today have yet to start their league programs, because obviously we're still, what are we, August the 7th? It's very early in the season. Some of them have, some of them are 1 or 2 games in. Some of them obviously play through the summer. So different situations, different stages in preparation, lots to look at. But I think generally speaking, yes, it is a more challenging card at the moment than when you get deeper into the season.
Very good day to one and all. Plenty in the comments already. Byron talking about the Leagues Cup, saying pricing is high all over. Both teams to score over 2.5 in the Inter Miami Orlando matches were -145, -165 respectively last night. I did play it, but not happy about it yet. The market's caught up, Byron. Will put us onto it very early on in that competition. And I know that quite a few of our listeners and viewers have sort of gotten onto it, and you're still winning, but there's that question as to whether it's still value. I noticed that we've had sort of a number of winning plays, but the odds ain't what they used to be. Tristan says, good day, everyone. Dave Clark says, Shakhtar, draw no bet. RZ -3. Rick says, morning all. Duncan, afternoon, guys. Byron talking about the Shakhtar and Noah games. What else have we got here? Duncan Evans says, James the Don Eastham. A lot of people happy to see James on the show today. Hello, good day to you both. Brian says, Minnesota were miserable last night. I had the over 3. Lots of comments. Kevin says, 2 of the 3 dream team has assembled. Can't wait for all 3. The extra time team back together. Yeah, well, sneak preview. Kevin, hopefully I'm not pulling the curtain back too much here, but we are going to record the season preview tomorrow, James, aren't we? Covering the sort of 4 main leagues. I don't know if we are. Don't tell anyone your picks yet. Have you sort of formulated any thoughts on leagues?
Yes, I have. Listen, I mean, do we ever switch off? Not really. Obviously, transfers going on all summer. So much to talk about when we get to that preview show, looking at the big leagues in Europe. Obviously, France, Italy, Germany, and Spain are the ones we concentrate on. The texts have been flying. I know Steve Wissu isn't with us today, but he's always here in spirit, isn't he, on these shows? He's been looking hard at lots of leagues and lots of markets. So really looking forward to that, because it's been a fascinating summer in the transfer market. And I can't give away any tips or picks or leans, but I do think there's some big opportunities in the outright markets. So with the preview show, we'll certainly get into all of those.
Yeah, that's going to be recorded tomorrow. I'm not quite sure when it's going to come out, but no doubt over the next few days. Will White is joining us. Now, I just mentioned Will with the Leagues Cup. So Will, listen, have the prices gone now? Let people know your thoughts on the prices for the Leagues Cup. We had some big bets on the Leagues Cup as well. It's been really popular, I think, which surprised me. But myself and Will did a show sort of last week, I think it was, and he was saying, look, a little bit like you were saying, James, when the bookmakers don't know, when we don't know, the bookmakers might not know, there are angles in, it's always worth taking a look at some of these newer competitions. $26,000 play on the Seattle Sounders live over 1.5 goals line at -110 against Tijuana, which was a winner. $15,000 play Club America against the Timbers live over 11.5 corners. Our corners guy's back. I'd love to meet the corners guy. I don't know if he comes on the show, watches the show. I'm not quite so sure. Real Betis against Como, which was a friendly $8,000 play on over 10.5 corners. Was that the game where it kicked off right at the end? I don't know if you saw this. I think it was something to do with Hector Bellerin and Pavlo Fornals. Somebody in the comments might be able to tell me that kicked off anyway. Someone's had a nice winning $8,000 play on the corners anyway. And Sounders on the money line against Tijuana, which was a winner $7,000 play. Yes, that'll been good in the Leagues Cup, certainly at home. And just when it comes to the soccer, we've got our soccer profit boost. If you log onto your BetRivers account or betrivers.com, and you want to receive a soccer profit boost pack consisting of a live bet profit boost and a parlay profit boost, see the app or the website for more details. So you can get a soccer profit boost via the app or the website betrivers.com. Plenty of live streams coming your way as well. 9 of the Europa League qualifiers. We're going to be talking our way through them shortly. 28 Conference League qualifying matches. Port Vale against Cardiff, which is a League One game in England, third tier. Quite fancy Cardiff, and that will certainly draw no bet. Monterey Charlotte Leagues Cup is being streamed, as is Galaxy against Santos Laguna. ATP and WTA Cincinnati also being streamed as well. So plenty to watch on the app and on the website. What have we got here? A says, hi both. Any tennis tips from Nigel and the tennis tips today? I think something's being recorded today for you, A, I think. Don't know. I'll have to check that one. What have we got? Yes, Troy's just highlighted that. New Game Better Match was just published to the Basic Weekly YouTube page 2 hours ago. There you go. So we've got some stuff there. Ajeda, great player. Orlando. Byron talking about Fornal smashed a guy in the face and the ref red-carded Bellerin by mistake. Ah, right, I see. I knew there was some sort of controversy. It's one of the things you see on your phone when you're on the tube and you think, what's gone on there? Yeah, interesting one. Right, let's start with some early kickoff. So midday, stateside Eastern least, 5 o'clock in the UK. Fredrikstad against Midtjylland is the first game that we're just going to talk our way through here. Fredrikstad a 3-1, the plus 300 here. Midtjylland minus 129, the Danish side. Fredrikstad, I've just been looking at this one. I've got no real bet in this, James. I don't know about your thoughts. They've only won 2 of their last 12. Lucky to draw at Tromsø at the weekend. The XG very much in Tromsø's favour. And they've not got a lot of European pedigree. This is the first time that they're in Europe for quite some time. And Midtjylland, as we know, have been in Europe an awful lot. They got knocked out by Real Sociedad in the knockout stages last season. I tend to say Midtjylland most likely winners, but I wouldn't really want to bet them at minus money. Any thoughts on that first game, the top game, kicking off at midday Eastern?
Yeah, I've come round to the same position as you, really, Dan, on this. I kind of changed my mind a little bit because on first glance, I felt Fredrikstad might be a little big, actually, at plus 300. My main reasoning for that was just match sharpness. They're obviously deep into their season because Norway play through the summer. I felt maybe that would be an advantage for them, and I think they're expecting a pretty good crowd here. But, you know, the more I dug into it, the more I came around to the position that you've really outlined there, Dan. They don't have a great deal of pedigree, Fredrikstad. They didn't actually do that well in their own domestic league last year, as you might expect for a team in this competition. They won the cup, I think, in Norway. And you're right, in terms of European experience in recent years, there's actually quite a big difference here, isn't there? Midtjylland well established now, and they've been batting at the top of their league for a number of years now. So I looked at the prices. I think they're probably about right. I think Midtjylland haven't made the best of starts in their own league. I think they're 3 games in at the moment. I think they've only had 1 win, but you would expect them to get the win here. And if they were something like plus 110, plus 115 to win away from home, I'd have maybe hovered on this game and studied it a bit more closely. But I think the odds against price on Fredrikstad and the odds on price on Midtjylland minus money to win, probably about right. So, yeah, my conclusion on this was could be quite an entertaining game. Maybe one to keep an eye on, watch, study after the game, because, of course, we do have the return legs next week, and it might throw up better opportunities to get involved when they meet again next week.
Lincoln Red Imps against FC No, we can take a brief look at as well. Again, I wanted to get interested in this one because one of our best bets the other week when I was on the Champions League show was Sven Zvezda giving away 3 goals against Red Imps in the return leg of their Champions League qualifier. They won 5-1. We cashed that bet. We thought that was one of the best bets of the week. So I sort of dug into the Red Imps a little bit here. They had a bit of a chance to beat Crvena Zvezda in the first leg because they got beat 1-0, but Crvena Zvezda, or Red Star as they are known, were down a man for much of that game, thought that was their opportunity. They did score away from home in Belgrade, but Crvena Zvezda absolutely dominated. They're plus 360, which is a little bit of a tempting thing. I was looking at some of the Opta rankings for these teams. FC Noah, the Armenian side, are ranked 487, and the Red Imps are outside the top 1,000 here. Tend to think, again, FC Noah will probably win this one. Do I want a bet at them at minus 152? Probably not. They did score 4 against Ferencváros, which I thought was fairly impressive against the Hungarian champions. I think the Red Imps might be good for a goal. I don't like both teams to score, yes, in these qualifiers. I highlighted a massive trend in the Champions League qualifiers where both teams have scored no for the last 3 seasons. You back it blindly in these qualifiers and you win money. It's slightly different for Europa League because they're not as good as teams. If I was pushed, I might go both teams to score yes here. Any thoughts on the Red Imps against Noah, James?
Yeah, it's very difficult to come up with a pick here, was how I looked at this. I felt there were reasons to maybe suspect both teams could have a pretty good day by their own standards. So come away from the game feeling like, do you know what, we've done okay there. I think the Red Imps, you've mentioned the heavy defeat they had to Red Star. They obviously did get through the round before that, and they might feel they've done pretty well just to do that. So I don't think they'll be written off, or shouldn't be written off completely here. And Noah, I remember Steve and I covered them a lot on the show last year, and they are probably best known for the 8-0 defeat they suffered against Chelsea, which was very heavy. We were on Chelsea on that occasion on the handicap, which Chelsea managed to obliterate. But actually, if you put that game to one side, they didn't do too badly in the group stage. They were never disgraced. They lost 1-0, I think it was, away to Rapid Vienna. They got a draw in another game. They only lost by a single goal to Baka Topola. So I think the prices make a lot of sense to me. It's very difficult, I think, to have any confidence in the home side winning this. And I think the price there, plus 390, is probably fair. I think if you're Noah and you don't win this game, given how you did in this competition last year, given that you play in a stronger league, the Armenian league being stronger than Gibraltar League, I think Noah will be disappointed if they don't win on the day today. But then you don't have a lot of leeway to back them, do you? Because they're minus 162. So it was one of those where I thought, yeah, if I was a bit more emphatically in favour of Noah, I would consider maybe backing them -1 on the Asian handicap to get your stakes back if they win by a single goal. I wouldn't be surprised if they do win by a single goal. And I think with that price, minus 162, there just wasn't enough in it really for me to want to side with anybody. So in the end, I left this game alone, Dan. I think, say the same as I said for the Fredrikstad match. I think it's really interesting to see how this plays out. And then when we get into the second leg with a bit more understanding of where these two teams are, maybe then the opportunities open up.
Yeah, Byron says both teams to score yes in the Noah game. If pushed, I'd play that. I'm not going to bet it. I'm not going to have a bet in the first 2 games. But if Will White gave me a free $50 bet, then I'd play the both teams to score yes at minus 129. Just a reminder that if you want to get our newsletter, lots of good stuff coming. Obviously, the football season proper getting underway, so all of us will be contributing to various bets over the course of the weekend. We all get involved. It's all good fun. You get a lot of stats. You get a lot of really good previews. All sorts of sports are covered as well. So if you like what you hear on our show, sign up for our newsletter. bettingweeklystudios.com is where you have to go. It is for free. You'll get it every Friday, every Monday, the Insider and the newsletter. An awful lot of good stuff coming your way. If you want that, you are more than welcome to it. Where are we next? Let's continue here with Cluj against Braga. We have got some official plays to come, and we have got some picks to come. I haven't really got one of this one, James. I don't know what you think here. I noticed that, Cluj are 2 wins from 2 at home in Europe so far this season. If we include an extra time win over Lugano, they've been pretty low-scoring fares for these 2 teams. Both 0-0s in their last qualifiers. Same, I think, for Braga as well. They needed extra time to get beyond Levski Sofia. And Braga are minus 132 away at Cluj. and they were minus 170 to win in Bulgaria. I don't see a lot of that. I mean, look, Spartan Braga are the better team for absolute sure here, but there's just that sort of caveat that they struggle to get beyond a limited Levski side. Cluj, who are 9 games into their season in all competitions, it might just make it difficult for them at home, but I couldn't really look at playing this one. James, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I kind of have a lean in it. I think it depends how you look at these games, and I'm talking really to the viewers here. If you are somebody that feels that the matches that have taken place so far just in these European ties count for a lot, then I would lean towards the under goals here. Now, the under 2.5 goals is very short, minus 148. You can back under 2.25 goals at minus 124. As a lean on the game, I would probably go towards that because, as you've said, Dan, we've had really low scoring games so far involving these two sides in Europe. They don't appear to be at this stage in their development, lots of goals. And I think Braga might be a little bit nervous actually about this tie, given that they struggled really to get through that previous round against Levski Sofia, plus the fact that Cluj are bit deeper into their season and maybe a bit more match ready. So I think Braga being away from home here, it might make them a little bit more conservative. They might be a bit more cautious. And as I say, if you look across the last 4 matches that these two sides have played cumulatively in Europe, there haven't been a lot of goals around. So I think the market expects a low scoring game. If you look at where the over under 2.5 goal line is set compared to some of the other matches, it looks that way. And that makes sense to me. So if the under 2.5 is too short for you, then I would look at under 2.25, because obviously with under 2.25, you're going to make a profit as long as there are 2 or fewer goals in the game. And right now, there's not a great deal of evidence that in 90 minutes, you're going to get 3 or more goals. So it's not an official pick or play for me. It's more of a lean. But I think, like I say, if you really value how teams are performing in Europe so far, maybe putting any league form that they've got to one side, then I think this game looks like a low-scoring match.
FGA Football said, afternoon, boys. I need to rebound today. Fenerbahce conceding in injury time. Ouch. Says that, yeah, Braga win and under 2.5 goals. Looking at that sort of 1-0, 2-0 scoreline. Genevieve says, I hate Braga. They struggle so much to create. I looked at some of their signings. They brought some new players in. Obviously, Portuguese season hasn't started just yet. I just tread with caution with this one. I think unders is the way to go. I know people are looking to get Braga on side as well. It's one of those ones that I just want the draw on side. If I was looking at this, I was trying to get a little sort of same game parlay together. I'd want the draw on side because Braga will take 0-0, go back to Portugal and win the second leg. I'm sure they would do. Next game to look at is one that I really like. Larnaca against Legia Warsaw. This one surprised me, the way that this game has been priced up, because I'd make this each of 2. Larnaca are plus 120 to win at home, and I know one of the reasons why they're favourites. I still won't make them favourites. And Legia Warsaw are plus 205, which just seems a really big price to me. Larnaca have won the last 7 at home in all competitions. So one of the reasons that they are favourites, I would imagine, with the books here, including both of their games in Europe this season. One against Che, 2-1 win, and the other against Partizan Belgrade, a 1-0 win. So narrow success is the pair. Che are ranked 297 by Opta, Partizan 328. Legia Warsaw are ranked 118. They are a cut above. They are much better, and they are as battle-hardened as you can be, I think, so far this season, because they're 7 games in all comps. They've won the Polish Super Cup. They beat Lech Poznan 2-1. And they beat Baník Ostrava 4-3 on aggregate in the previous round. Their game at the weekend doesn't tell the full story. They played Arka Gdynia. It was a 0-0 draw. In terms of expected goals, 1.85 to 0.66 in Legia Warsaw's favour. They had 20 shots and 4 big chances, didn't manage to score from any of them. So a lot pointing to the fact that they should have won that game. But here's the thing that maybe is not factored into the prices. They made 9 outfield changes for that game, which seems incredible at this stage of the season. Just means that they've got a sort of, well, I'd like to think a big enough squad to deal with playing with European football and domestic football nice and early. Larnaca's domestic season hasn't started yet. I think that Legia plus 0.25 on the Asian line at minus 122 is the way to play it. I understand what you're saying out. Larnaca money line for me here. I'm basing it on the home form. I get that. However, if I told you that Larnaca have only won 3 of their last 10 at home in Europe, could I change your mind? Domestically, I get their home form, and I understand why they would be favourites on most people's. But I think the Legia Warszawa are the better team. They're rested, rotated. They're unbeaten this season, and they are a better quality side than Larnaca. I get that home record for Larnaca, and it's always difficult to go places like that. But in European football, their record is not. Look, the draw. You get the draw, you get a half win. So I want the draw on side. That's my thoughts on that one. I'm going to bet that today. It is what time kickoff? It's a 12:30 kickoff, so be underway in just over an hour's time. Any thoughts on that one, James?
Yeah, well, I didn't look into it in that much depth at all, Dan. That's fascinating. When I saw the prices on this, it did stand out a little bit because it was one of those games where the away side are the underdogs and their domestic league season has started. I went through the card and was very interested in who was already underway in their domestic league. I do think that matters in the sense that teams who are already playing in their domestic league will have worked towards a fixed date to be ready for their first game. That's just how fitness and physios would have worked with their players. So I did already feel that gave Legia Warsaw an advantage over one or two of the other teams like Braga, for example, who we've just dealt with, who haven't started their league. And you mentioned the rankings there. I think rankings are either misunderstood or written off by a lot of people when actually they can be extremely useful as a guide to relative strength. You've mentioned where the teams rank in terms of their individual club ranking. Clubs are obviously ranked like that, as are countries. And if you compare the two leagues here, I think Poland currently ranks 13th in UEFA's rankings and the Cypriot League is 20th. Yeah, even on that basis, you can kind of get an idea of where the teams are, especially if they've qualified for competitions by finishing in the same or pretty much the same place in their league. So, yeah, there's lots of reasons why this price looks slightly wrong, but I think you picked out the most important ones there with the way you went through it, Dan. So I think it just shows how many factors there are out there if you're willing to do the work.
Byron says, Legia double chance under 3.5 minus 118. Couldn't put anyone off that. Legia just a quarter ball handicap FGA is minus 122. Someone's mentioned the weather. Brian says it's 32 degrees in Larnaca right now. I mean, it just screams walking football, doesn't it? To a certain extent. If you just wanted to play that, I think the unders. What is the unders on that game? Let's get the prices back up here. Under is minus 106. Minus 124. I mean, we're all talking roughly the same prices. Under minus 124. Couldn't really put anyone off that.
No.
I don't think that's the worst at all.
I mean, it's close. If you look at it there, Dan, on the under overs, it's kind of close to 50-50 if you work, if you take into account the way the bookmakers are going to price it up. So, yeah, it's an appealing bet. If you look at the Cluj Braga, which I talked about, the unders there being minus 148. If you've got temperatures like that in Larnaca, then it's hard to see it being much of a fast-paced open game with lots of chances, isn't it?
You wouldn't have thought so. I don't know what the temperature in Poland's been like over the course of the last week. I bet it's hot because it is, isn't it, in those sort of places. That's the first page of Europa League qualifiers. We'll move on to the second page here. We've got some official picks from James coming up shortly. We've got a sort of semi-official pick from Steve Wiss. Who's not on the show obviously today, but he always likes to sort of throw in his thoughts, and he's given us his thoughts on Hacken against Brann, which is a 1:30 Eastern kickoff here. I mean, I don't mind overs at all here, and Steve said he likes overs in this game. Over 3, Steve suggested at minus 112. I looked at some of the expected goal stats for both of these teams. Hacken games average in the XG 3.05, in reality 3.28. And for Brann, it's 3.25 XG and 3.12 in terms of goals scored. Hacken at minus 138, I wouldn't really bet. Brann plus 160 are the better ranked team in terms of the Opta standings, but I think overs is fair here. James, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, I bow to Steve's greater knowledge here. I think overs, he was quite strongly on it, wasn't he, from the way he was talking, I think, before the game. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I had a look at this game, like I looked at all of them. I didn't have a strong view on this one, actually. There wasn't a lot that stood out. You've got a game here between two teams who have obviously got a lot of recent match practice. They're both deep in their league season. So it's an interesting game in that sense, in that if you were to look at it, you've obviously got more form to work with, and you can kind of assume that the two teams are going to be certainly ready for the game, and they've maybe factored it in a bit more than one of the two of the other teams who are coming into their matches cold. So it might be one that people want to look at, but no, I didn't have any plays or leans on this one.
Yeah, overs for Steve. Over 3 on the Asian line was Steve's pick at -112. PAOK against Wolfsberger, an interesting one. And this, I looked at this earlier today, James, and what you were talking about earlier, this sort of comes into it a little bit, because it's PAOK's first competitive game of the season. They are -195, and you just think they haven't played a competitive game. Why am I betting them? I mean, they're probably the better team, Wolfsberger, +480. But do I really want to bet them at sort of -195? I know you've got a little bit of a lean on this one, haven't you?
Yeah, I do, and that's sort of a factor in the lean. So I'm siding with Wolfsberger here, primarily on the price, because they are such a big price to win the game. I wouldn't back them to win it, but I think that really short price on PAOK, it does open up then the opportunity to back Wolfsberger on the Asian handicap. So my lean on the game is Wolfsberger +1 on the Asian handicap, which was available at -127. So with that bet, you're only going to lose your stakes if PAOK get the win by 2 or more goals. And I think it's a lot to ask of a team who are going into it cold the way they are. As you say, their league season hasn't started. Are they really that much stronger? I think they probably are the better side. I mean, if you look at the rankings, they're definitely the better side. They've certainly got more sort of pedigree in terms of their own individual recent performances in Europe. But then by other metrics, there's not maybe a huge amount to pick between the teams. They play in similar standard leagues. I think the Greek league is ranked a little bit higher than the Austrian league, but they finished in fairly similar positions in their own domestic leagues last season. Wolfsberger have got the advantage that they've started their league season, so I think they're inevitably going to be a little bit more advanced in their preparation for this match than PAOK are. I'm not sure. I think that I wouldn't make it an official pick, but I looked at the price and it surprised me that they were as short to win the game as they are. Their price has changed a little bit. They were -210 where PAOK to win the game. They've kind of changed a little bit. So maybe the market or the market makers felt they were slightly over egging the home side at first. They've sort of changed a little bit now to -190. So I really wanted Wolfsberger +1.25 on the Asian handicap. That way you're going to make a profit if they lose by a single goal. I think the market doesn't really allow it now. So it's more Wolfsberger +1 on the Asian handicap, and then you'll be getting your stakes back if they lose by a single goal, and making a profit if they manage to get a draw or go and win the game. So it's only a lean. It's not an official pick, but it is one of those matches where I think the home side are slightly overrated by the market, and it might just open up an opportunity on the other side.
Yeah, Byron agreeing with you there, and also questioning Wolfsberger's heritage. Yeah. Just one other thing that I thought on this game, and it comes from that angle that, first competitive game. Well, for Greek teams, this happens an awful lot because their season starts a little bit later. I went through PAOK's last 6 seasons, and their first game of the season was always a European game. And you think to yourself, well, is there any sort of chaos here? Do they get beat? Do they draw? What happens? And one little trend that came through, that in the last 6 seasons, in their first game, home or away, first competitive game, it's always been a European game. There's been 13 goals in the first halves of those fixtures. So an average of just over 2. Yeah. You can play over 1.25 Asian first half goals at -103, so it's a half loss if there's one goal. If you want to go over 1.5, is +135 if you think there's going to be 2. The average is 2. It's a 6-season sort of trend. You would have cashed 4 of those 6. I've got my stats right here because there has been a 0-0 draw. You've cashed 4 of the 6. It's relatively small, but you just think, if PAOK are always coming into games like this, and it's not just them scoring, it's the opposition scoring as well. There's been some sort of crazy games. They beat Besiktas 3-1. They drew with Ajax 2-2. Obviously, this is slightly different in terms of their opposition, but Wolfsberger on their part were a team that averaged quite a few goals away from home in the regular season in Austria in the first 45 minutes. So there's a few angles in there. I quite like Wolfsberger +1 with you, but yeah, if you maybe look at the overs for the first half in that game if it's a little bit of a chaotic start. Brian, our weatherman's been on, says Warsaw's been 22, 27 degrees last week. 27 degrees high Sunday when Legia played 0-0 at home versus newly promoted AEK. Good knowledge, good research there from Brian. Don't forget, if you want our newsletter, please sign up. It is free, tips every single week. Just a reminder of the newsletter website there. If you're just joining us mid-show today, bettingweeklystudios.com, you will get all of the latest newsletters Friday and Monday. Let's continue. I look forward to the games in the Europa League. That's the first page. There we go, second page. Is that where are we? Yes. Zrinjski against Breidablik. My thoughts for this one, James, and I quite like this bet, is Zrinjski, if I've got the pronunciation right, at -1. They're -132, giving a goal start. So a win, and this is from the James Eastham playbook, really. A win and you get your money back. But I expect them to win easy here. There's very few head-to-head lines with all these teams, but these two teams did meet a couple of years ago. Breidablik won 1-0 at home. Zrinjski won 6-2 at home. They were -150 2 years ago. They're -200 to win today. They've had their first two domestic games of the season suspended because they wanted to prepare for Europe. Sometimes it can work for them, sometimes it can't. Breidablik are in second in the Icelandic top flight, and they've got a massive game at the weekend. They take on Vaduz, who are top. Whether that's going to be on their mind, I don't know. And their European record isn't great. They've lost 12 of the last 14, and they've lost their last 7 away.
Wow.
So
wow.
I'm going to play. This is one of my official bets, if you like. I'm betting this with my own money, as I am the other one. I'm going to play Zrinjski -1. They drew with Villa at home last season.
Yeah.
They beat RZ at home last season. They're a good team at this level, and Breidablik aren't. James, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things I thought were interesting about this game. I looked long and hard at it. The first was just how well matched these two leagues are. Bosnian League, I think, ranks 37th. The Icelandic League ranks 32nd, so there's not a great deal in it. And I think their individual team rankings, I didn't go through all of them on every single tie, I must admit. But there was very little to pick between them on that metric as well. So, and that might be because, Breidablik have got a good record in their league and they've got into Europe many times and all the rest of it. But on the face of it, it looked to me like two fairly well-matched teams. I completely changed my mind when I looked at Breidablik's away record, which you've alluded to already, Dan. Really poor. Already been really poor this season. They lost 7-1 away to Lech Poznan. They lost 1-0 away to Egnatia. Before that, they did get through the tie against Egnatia, but then they were heavily beaten by Lech Poznan and they lost the home leg of their two-legged tie against them as well. So I simply wouldn't have any faith whatsoever in Breidablik here playing away from home because their record is clearly dreadful and it's going to be very difficult for them here. And yeah, you've said it's one of my playbook bets. I think these bets where you can bet on a team you really fancy to win at home who are short odds on the money line on the Asian handicap instead is always a great way to do it because as long as they do win, as long as you're minus one goal and no bigger than that, then at the very worst, you're going to get your stakes back. So I didn't in the end have a pick or a play on it, but yeah, the line I wrote on the game was do not, whatever you do, be siding with Breidablik because their away form suggests they're going to find this really tough.
Opta rankings, incidentally, Zrinjski are ranked 376. That's the global rank. Breidablik at 968. Have a look at those Opta. When we do our individual leagues, James, obviously, France, brilliant. And Italy, I know you've dropped on over the last sort of season. Everyone's got more of a handle on which team is better than, generally we know that Milan are better than Lecce, for example. But when you're looking at these divisions, have a look at the Opta rankings. You can type in any team in the world and you'll get some rankings and some ratings that you can have a little bit of fun with and sort of, have a look at the market and see if that sort of comes true to what you're thinking when it comes to these two teams and leagues and so on. Let's move on because we've got some official plays from James and they are in the next couple of games that we're going to talk about. Panathinaikos against Shakhtar Donetsk first of all. And Dave's been asking on the Shakhtar game. Byron says, already in, draw no bet. Presume you mean Shakhtar. Don't actually know, but James can talk us through his thoughts first of all. This game being played at the Olympic Stadium, Will White was pointing this out the other day when Panathinaikos were held by Rangers. We were sort of conflicted with that Rangers game because we wanted to get with Panathinaikos, but Rangers got such a good away record in Europe that we sort of half left it alone. Panathinaikos are not the favourites. They're plus 160. Shakhtar plus 148 here. The over and underline, James, minus 127, minus 103. You have got a play in this one, haven't you?
Yes, I do. And I'm strongly on Shakhtar Donetsk here. And you've said they're the favourites now. I think the market has struggled over the last 48 hours to know exactly what to do with this game. The two teams have been really evenly matched in the market. And I think at one stage, could be wrong, but I think at one stage Panathinaikos were narrowly favourites. Then it was almost 50-50. It's obviously still nearly 50-50 now. But Shakhtar's my play. I was surprised when it was a real 50-50 game. So I'm not massively surprised that Shakhtar are now narrow favourites. They're my pick on the game, draw no bet. So you might want to back them at plus money there, plus 148 to win the game. My play is Shakhtar Donetsk, draw no bet or tie no bet, whatever you want to call it, at minus 120, minus 125, something like that. And the main reason is their form, Dan. This is one of the games where you have a team who are a good team anyway. We know that about Shakhtar Donetsk at this level, in this competition. This is potentially a good team who've not only got form in terms of they've been playing matches, but they've been playing well and they've been getting results. And there was enough form for me from them ahead of this game for them to be a pick from me. So just to talk through that form, they've had 4 matches in the last month, pretty much, in Europe. They played Ilves, a Finnish side. They beat them 6-0 at home. They drew 0-0 away, where the tie was already over, thanks to that first leg win to get through very comfortably. That was in early July, mid-July. Then back end of July, they played Besiktas and they won 4-2 away from home and finished the job with a 2-0 win at home. So this is a Shakhtar side who so far have shown really strong form in Europe. That is 12 goals scored, clean sheets in 3 of their 4 matches. And then they've started their league campaign at the weekend with a 1-0 win as well. So I see no reason why they wouldn't go into this game feeling very confident and crucially being fit and ready to play a competitive match, which we've already talked about the Greek league, Dan, and you mentioned it starting quite late. That is not the situation for Panathinaikos, who are going into this game cold. They don't have that form. They getting ready for their own domestic league season. Yes, as a Greek team, as other leagues, they're used to having to play European games before they've maybe got deep into their league program. But that's no substitute for me for the fact that Shakhtar have got these matches under their belt. So I went into the prices fully expecting Shakhtar to be, if not clear favourites, and certainly not minus money favourites, clearer favourites than they are at the moment. I thought they would be a little bit more fancied by the bookmakers than they are. And yeah, I'm very happy to take them here, tie no bet, because I look at it and I think I'd be surprised if they lose this game. You know, playing well enough and getting the results and the form they've shown to at least get a draw here. So it's my main pick really on today's program. It's Shakhtar Donetsk. Draw no bet. It's been hovering around the minus 120, minus 125 price. I would imagine now it will stay there pretty much till kickoff. And I noticed a few people in the comments like it as well. So I'm strongly expecting a win here, or at the very least, Shakhtar to not lose the game.
Money for the unders, incidentally. Had a $1,300 play on under 2.5 goals in this game at plus 114. Not 100% certain. I mean, Shakhtar were really good to beat Besiktas away from home. That is a standout early European piece of form, isn't it? Byron's saying, sorry to go back, but can we get Wolfsberger plus 1.25 at minus 141?
Yes, quite possibly, Byron. Plus 1 was minus 127 when I looked.
What you're suggesting, James, is you wouldn't go as low as minus 141 odds wise.
It's a tough one. I'm partly influenced by the fact the price had moved, and it had moved with the market starting to favour Wolfsberger. So what had happened was earlier in the week I saw Wolfsberger plus 1.25 Asian handicap at around 125.27. Then when I saw the price move to minus 141, I thought I'll go with plus 1 goal start. But I personally, my pick is plus 1. on the Asian handicap, but I wouldn't talk anybody out of plus 1.25 if you would like a bit of profit in the event of them losing by a single goal, if you're willing to take those shorter odds. In the end, they were just a little bit too short for me, but I can see why people would go down that one.
Yeah, speaking of money, the games that we've been talking about, a lot of the favourites have been bet. Midtjylland on the money line, Noah on the money line, Braga 99% on the money line, Legia Warsaw, who aren't the favourites, are the sort of counterintuitive bet from our Bet Rivers market traders here. 86% of money on Legia, which makes me feel a little bit happier about my play, even though they are the outsiders of the two. Most of the money on Hacken and on PAOK as well, and on Zrinjski. And we mentioned Panathinaikos. Most of the cash has come on Shakhtar. 89% of the money, 63% of the tickets on Shakhtar as well. So that's rec money, and it's a bit of pro money as well. That's Panathinaikos game done and dusted. Don't worry, Jan. We're going to get to Utrecht next. Have you got a thought in it, Jan? What do you think? Let us know, because James is going to talk us through Servette against Utrecht. This is a 2:30 Eastern kickoff here. Servette plus 260 here. Utrecht are minus 117. I mean, they finished fourth in Eredivisie last season. I always thought they were a little bit of an XG darling when he used to commentate on Eredivisie games. A couple of years ago, they were a side that you looked at the XG stats, they should always score more, but they never did. They were sort of like Brighton under Potter, a little bit United under Ten Hag. They never sort of did enough, but I think they'll win here. Servette have just been a team that a couple of years ago, when we first started these shows, we were always on overs. And this season, we played Victoria Plzeň against them and got a nice winning bet. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this one. Is this an official play as well, or a strong lean for this one, Servette?
Yes, it's an official play in the sense it was my newsletter pick at the start of the week. Went out on there. I haven't changed my mind on it, as I never really do with my newsletter picks. It was the over goals. Now you can see there on the prices, over 2.5 goals is pretty short at minus 175. So my newsletter pick was over 2.75 goals, which at the start of the week was available at minus 129, has now changed, is about minus 143 now. So if you did get on it earlier on in the week, you would have had a better price on the overs. And yeah, I think if you look at the form of the two sides in Europe, but also in the case of Servette in the opening weeks of the Swiss League, there have been plenty of goals kicking around. So to talk through the goals form of the two teams, Servette started in Europe with a two-legged tie against Victoria Plzeň. They won their first leg away from home 1-0, so not a huge number of goals in that game, but then they lost the return leg.
There was a lot of XG in that game, because that should have gone overs, and Victoria Plzeň should have won it. It's one of the reasons we tipped up Plzeň the next week, because they have to win this time around. They did anyway. Sorry, Jim.
Yeah, that's it. And I think people who were watching the game, but also looking at the stats, would have wondered how Servette won that first match, and then it, as you say, Dan, it turned around because Victoria Plzeň won the second leg 3-1. And I think that second leg is more indicative, really, of the defensive form that Servette have shown at the start of the season, because they're 2 games into their domestic league season, the Swiss Super League being one of the domestic leagues that generally starts quite early. And so far, Servette have lost 3-1 away to Young Boys, and they've lost 4-1 at home to St. Gallen. So it's not looking good. Again, if you dig a little bit deeper into those league games, are they taking it super seriously at the moment with this big European match coming up? Well, I tend to think they are, actually. I'm not sure they've written off those early games in the Swiss League. I think what they've done is they've come up against teams who've attacked them pretty well, and they've crumbled because they've defended poorly. So I think Utrecht, looking at this, will think, hang on a minute, there's great opportunities here to get goals. And that's something Utrecht have already shown that they can score, because they beat Sheriff in Europe at the end of July 7-2 over 2 legs. They won 3-1 away from home and 4-1 at home in a second leg when they were already in a dominant position. So I think the prices on the money line, getting a question there from Noah about the money line, I think the prices on the money line make a lot of sense. I think Utrecht are the better side. The Swiss League, I always find, I really enjoy watching it because there's some very open football in that league and some attack-minded sides. They never really do as well for me as they should in European competition. I always think they come up a little bit short. I think they're ranked 16th at the moment, our Swiss teams in the UEFA coefficient rankings. They could be a bit higher than that, but I think if you look at Servette losing to Victoria Plzeňa, I think it's indicative of why Swiss teams collectively are maybe ranked where they are. So the money line price on Utrecht makes a lot of sense to me. I think there's bound to be goals in this game because I think Servette are almost guaranteed to give up goals. And I think the Swiss side are going to have no choice but to try and match Utrecht toe for toe as an attacking force, because defensively they're gonna crumble once again. So I think the chances of there being 3 or more goals in this match are pretty good. That led me to the newsletter pick at the start of the week. As I say, over 2.75 goals was minus 129 at the start of the week. That price has gone now. You may need to look at over 3 goals now for that sort of price, but some way or other, if you are to have a bet on the game, my advice would be to look at the overs here.
Yeah, over 3 was minus 117 last I saw, so 3 is a push. Plenty of the comments talking about Sebastian Haller, who was on loan at Utrecht. Jan saying he's going to re-sign. A little bit of chat about them. And also, Johan Catalin is one that Jan says take a look at. I was just looking at his stats. 6 goals last season, 5 assists. Former Guingamp and Lorient player. Don't know if you ever watched him play at some stage, James?
Yes, in and out of the sides he was back in the day. I mean, he was one of those players from France who's had to kind of leave and build himself a good career. You're mentioning the players there, Dan. One thing just to flag up generally on the competition at this stage is you don't necessarily have all the player markets available at this stage of the competition that there might be further down, largely because the bookmakers aren't that sure of the players, right? So if you're looking at things like goals or shots on target and you click on and you look down, you may not find individual player markets available at this stage. It's just something to look out for if you're looking at the matches and wondering why maybe not all the markets you normally see are there.
That is the Servette game. We're looking at overs. You might have to go 3. Just one more game to look at, and then a very, very brief chat about the conference here. FCSB against Drita. FCSB I've got wrong at every single turn, but I'm having a bet in this game. It's up to you guys if you won't follow me on this. I've got FCSB wrong so often. They're minus 305 to win this game. Drita are plus 800. FCSB have lost 4 of 5. 4 of their last 5. Sorry, their last 4 and 5 of the last 6, including to Skendia home and away. And they also got beat by the Andorran side Inter Descaldes 2-1 away, even though they did get through an aggregate. And having been with FCSB, and I've found myself sort of thinking, I've lost money on them. I've got to try and get some of it back. So I'm gonna have a look at Drita here at plus 1.5 on the handicap at minus 127, and under 2.5 goals. I think is a good play on this one as well. It's even money. 7 of the last 8 European away games for Drita have been under 2.5, and that has included trips to Copenhagen this season, where we put it as a play last week, also against Legia last season, Plzeňa last season, Antwerp recently as well. All teams that are much better than FCSB. I think Drita will try and set up to be defensive as they have been, and I'm just going to play them plus 1.5 on the handicap as well, because they don't get beat by big score lines. They did lose 2-0 to Copenhagen, admittedly, but they've lost by 2 or more just 4 times in 22 European games since 2020. It's a little bit. I've just seen Brian's comment here. It's a little bit of a flyer. Yes, this is very much my Radicani. We've all got these. Let's face it. We've all got teams that we get wrong week in, week out, and we're desperate to try and get right. And anyone who watches the shows every week will know that. And I would imagine that every single person watching this will say, "Yeah, there's this team, there's this tennis player, there's this golfer. I always get sucked in one way or the other. It's just the way it is, isn't it? It's terrible." I'm backing unders, and I'm going to play plus 1.5. I hate FCSB. What else have we got here? Brad Bessel says, leg 1 to leg 2, scoring always increases. Be careful with total scoring leg 1. Opening up leg 2, Europa League totals have been higher than Conference Leagues thus far because leg 2 over 2.5, which came in at 65%. Good
Interesting.
stats from Brad. Yeah, look, myself and James are on next Thursday, so we'll be revisiting a lot of these games, hopefully with our accounts a little bit healthier than they are at the moment. Not suggesting that they're not healthy as it is. Do we want to say anything about FGA football? Turkish teams are my nemesis. Yeah, if we started an open thread about which teams we'd like, this could go on forever, and we've already been on for 50 minutes. Conference qualifiers. We've got no graphic for it, but James, you did have a look. You've not really got any bets, but you've got a thought on one game, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to flag up for people who may look at the game and think, well, what's going on here? The big price outlier across both of these competitions today, which is the AZ Alkmaar game against FC Vaduz. AZ Alkmaar at home, they're minus 2,000 to win the match. There is no other favourite across any of the matches in either the Europa League or the Conference League today that are anywhere like as short as that. You may be looking at the card and just looking down the prices as your starting point and wonder what's going on. So I just wanted to flag it up. The main reason is that they're playing an FC Vaduz side who are a Swiss second division side. So this isn't a team who play in the top flight. You can argue the whys and wherefores of the strengths of various leagues, but what you've got here is you've got a second division team who didn't actually even do that well in the Swiss second division last season. I think they finished 9th out of 10 in that division. So just if you're looking at the prices and you're wondering what's going on, that's why there's such a big price discrepancy there. It's because AZ are playing a team from the Swiss second division. I think you need to bet AZ Alkmaar minus 3 goals on the Asian handicap to get close to evens, which I think is fair. I think it is a big golfing class. Vaduz are a team people may or may not know, based in Liechtenstein, and they've qualified through winning, I think it is the Liechtenstein Cup.
Yeah, they've done that a lot.
And they do it a lot because they're obviously the big team of Liechtenstein, but in greater terms and the bigger picture with them playing in the Swiss league, they're not at the moment a Swiss top flight team. They have been in recent memory, and that's something they often are when they're going into Europe, but not at the moment. So just if you're wondering why there is one game where we have such a huge favourite, then that's what's going on with the pricing there.
Opta ranked them 1,832 in the world, incidentally. I don't know if this is Nigel who's commenting or if it's Troy. Betting with just the England cricket team, Raducanu, QPR, Spain's women's national team, Tim Henman, to name a few. That's one for Dojo. I don't know if Nigel's watching at the moment. That's a Dojo episode and a half, isn't it? Yeah. Look, I'm gonna rattle through. Steve's got a pick or a lean in a conference game, and I'm gonna rattle through where the money's gone. There's a lot of very shrewd commenters on the comments. If you've got a play for myself or James or anybody else who's watching, get it in the comments now while I rattle just through, first of all, Steve's pick, which is in the Rosenborg Hammarby game. He has suggested that Dino Islamovic at plus 155 anytime goal scorer in that game. And that game kicks off in about 5 minutes' time. I should have done that earlier. That's Rosenborg against Hammarby. Dino Islamovic plus 155. He's got 13 goals in his last 9 games. He's not a youngster. He's 31. He's just hit a massive vein of form. He's scored in 7 of his last 9, 13 in total, including 1 hat-trick, including a 4-goal haul. He's on penalties as well. And Rosenborg are at home there against Hammarby. So plus 155, that's Steve's lean on that Rosenborg game. Drop your picks in the comments here. Just on that Servette Utrecht game, Bet Rivers traders will be fairly happy. They've taken two-way money here. They've taken money on Utrecht, $500 play, and on Servette on the money line here. It's a game that you can watch on the app. And in terms of the just selected conference qualifiers where the money's been going, in that Rosenborg Hammarby game, we've had $1,000 play on under 2.5 goals at plus money. And most of the money, Banik against Austria Vienna, has come for Banik, who are the home team. Silkeborg against Jagiellonia, the Polish side, 76% of the money has come for the Polish team there. Anderlecht against Sheriff Tiraspol, 98%. Of the tickets on Anderlecht, 97% of the money. So again, the Belgian side well backed. We've had some 4-figure dollar plays on Anderlecht on the money line. And Partizan against Hibs, $1,000 play on Partizan on the money line at just over evens at plus 102. Yeah, I think Hibs might struggle in Belgrade. That's one where we've taken a little bit of money for the home team. That just about wraps it up. James, best bet. What would you describe as your best bet on the Europa League qualies?
Yeah, best bet is that Shakhtar Donetsk play, Dan. Tie no bet, draw no bet, away to Panathinaikos, minus 125.
Great stuff. I'll be looking back at some of these bets that the commenters have put in. Some really good suggestions over the course of the last near hour. That is your lot from myself and James for now. Lots more content coming up. We are recording some season previews, both European shows and Premier League shows, over the next sort of 24 hours. They'll be dropping, as they say, over the next few days, I would have thought. And we're going to be back for the first European preview show, European weekend show next, is that Friday, isn't it? I think we're going to go out. Yeah, so look forward to that. James, enjoyed your company. Many thanks to everybody who has been watching over the course of the last hour. Wish you well tonight. Good luck with your bets. Let's hope we cash some tickets. We'll be back tomorrow.